It's time for the Access of Easy podcast, the weekly technology digest that keeps you ahead of the curve. Brought to you by EasyDNS.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to another Access of Easy. This is number 321. My name is Joey, and the other panel is Len, and this is the audio compendium to the Access of Easy newsletter. You can sign up at accessofeasy.com, pump in your email there. Maybe you got a fake email. Use that. Maybe you got a fake email to, I don't know, what would you use a fake email for? Sign up for, I don't know, Abercrombie and Fitch promotions or something, and you want to get the newsletter, you can read it, enjoy it, listen to this. And then I think as well, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, and I try to mention every week, you actually get a discount, a couple of bucks off your Easy DNS cart, I believe, for signing up. Anyway, Len, before we get into it, how are things over there? What's going on?
Yeah, very nice. It's nice and warm for a change for Southern Ontario this time of year. So it's very, very nice. Everything is really good, Joey. Very, very busy in my real life.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like this for the next 6 weeks or so. So I just got to grin and bear it. Shoot, even 2 months. Anyways, how are things over there?
Pretty good. This might be the last week I do this show in this room. I don't know if I'm going to do the Monday show, the CBP, in this room, but I might start switching over to the podcast studio that is in the process of being built. But anyway, a story for another time. Len, we got lots to talk about tonight. But first, as always, the quote of the week. Last week's quote. When a government takes over a people's economic life, it becomes absolute. And when it has become absolute, it destroys the arts, the minds, the liberties, and the meaning of the people it governs. That was from Maxwell Anderson. Nobody got that one. It's funny. Mark always tells us later, he's like, you guys don't know who said that quote, or you guys don't know who that person is. Mark, we're not the only ones. This week's quote from
who's Maxwell Anderson? Actually, this time I did a search to see who he's a playwright that was born in the late 19th century and passed away around the 60s, I think it was. And that was basically it. He's a playwright and had this quote. That's his life in a nutshell.
Yeah, not everyone is voracious reader as the Easy DNS Access of Easy crew there. So this week's quote: from the wild Irish slums of the 19th century eastern seaboard to the riot-torn suburbs of Los Angeles, there is one unmistakable lesson in American history: a community that allows large numbers of young men to grow up in broken families, never acquiring any stable relationship to male authority, never acquiring any set of rational expectations about the future. That community asks for and gets chaos. That is a very timely quote, in my opinion. I don't know who it's by. Maybe you do.
OJ.
Viewer. Who?
OJ Simpson.
OJ, that is, yeah, Buffalo Bills great. OJ Simpson said that. So if you're the first to type that in the comments, if you know who it is, type it in the comments. Don't Google, don't search. You know the rules. And next week we'll show you out, and you get your next renewal on Easy DNS, which is great. Okay, Len, where do you want to start tonight? We got a handful of stories.
Yeah, well, let's go to Westminster. And a group of journalists, artists, authors, activists, technologists, and academics, they have come together. They all have banded together. And they have collectively written something known as the Westminster Declaration. And the signatories to this document include people like Matt Taibbi, Julian Assange, Tim Robbins, Oliver Stone, Edward Snowden, and a whole bunch of others. And for people who want to see this document, you can easily do so by just going to the website westminsterdeclaration.org, and which, by the way, I did a lookup of the domain in this, and likely this is registered to a Canadian. And based on what I see, was it you, Joey? Were you the guy that registered this?
No, sir. No,
okay,
sir.
Well, I digress. This group of people, they're upset at terms that are being thrown around. We've heard these terms many, many times: misinformation, disinformation, and this is a way to, what they're saying is to suppress the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, and potentially can be a human rights issue. And we've seen this so many times, this misinformation, this term being thrown around, and also disinformation. I'm going to throw those two in the same blender and mix it together. And sometimes they're doing this. They're throwing out these two terms either individually or together as a way to discredit an individual. And this could have some long-term implications for an individual, and it could really negatively impact them. This is just because somebody wants to voice a particular viewpoint, their opinion, and because they did this and it goes against the narrative, while some people they're losing their ability to work for lucrative firms in their respected fields, they're getting shunned from society. There's a lot of negative that could come out around from this. So these people, this relatively large group of people over here with some really big names, they've come together. I'm going to give them credit because they're potentially risking their livelihood moving forward to come together to sign this document, because clearly this is not with the narrative, but they're pissed off. Essentially, they have come to a point, a realization they've had enough. And they think this is the only way that they could try to correct these errors, not just for themselves, but for society as a whole. And I have to give them credit because they want to stand on this hill, and this is a hill they're going to die on. And I'm not to say that they're right or they're wrong, but they believe in something, and they're willing to go to the ends of the earth to make sure that people are aware that they believe in it, and they're going to try making people change their minds as a result. So I don't have anything else to say about this, but these people, they got nuts to do this, because I suspect they're going to be impacted moving forward. So guys like Taibbi, Julian Assange, Robbins, a whole bunch of others, good for you. It's a worthy cause. We'll see how this transpires.
Some of these guys have already been pasted and filleted in popular media for their stance on various narrative, controlled issues. COVID, a good example of one. Taibbi is out there talking about a number of different things. Actually, the Twitter files, for example, in his case, among others. And I think that a lot of these guys are probably lent at their wits' end, to say the least. But maybe more importantly, I think they're doing this at a time when, as we know, because we do this show, and obviously CBP, we talk about this a little bit too, the clamps are coming down all over the place. And it's not just, think tanks and academics saying this stuff about we need to have, speech controlled, and all speech is free speech except this kind, or, you can't insult certain political parties or political stances or policy positions. This stuff is not just, being floated in message boards now. It's coming through legislative channels. And I think this is timely. And I want to see more of this from people who are maybe not already black sheep in the ecosystem, right? I would like to see this more from, a mainstream journalist. When is someone at the CBC going to speak out about, free speech being attacked, or someone at CNN, or someone at Fox? Where's Chris Cuomo? Cuomo was blackballed from CNN over a number of stories he did over COVID, among other things. And, he's, to his credit, got his own show now and is doing some stuff right. But, why doesn't he sign this? I am sure that these people gave an opportunity to many, many, many media personalities, academics and activists, and, the different walks of people that will be affected by this positively or negatively, and said, hey, do you want to sign on? This is something you're interested in. And my assumption is that they either said no outright or said, I'm with you, but in secret. And those things do no good. So kudos, like you said, to these guys. I'm happy to see this, but I do want to see it from some more mainstream personalities. I think that's the sort of logical next step in fighting censorship around the world.
Well, let's talk about something which trying to get mainstream it is not. It's Instagram Threads. Who the heck is using it these days? I remember you were mentioning that you secured one of more lucrative names, the handles.
I just wanted to secure my Instagram handle on Threads, but I mean, I've never actually used it. I don't have Threads on my phone. I think Instagram. Look, we'll do a little research on it here. I think Instagram does direct you to Threads if you go to your profile. Let's see.
Is it a different app, or is
it's a different app? Oh, so look, I went to my profile here. First of all, it wants me to go to Threads, and then it also wants me to sign up for a verified badge, neither of which I will be doing. So there you go. They're trying. We'll give them that over at Meta. Things might not be good, but they're trying their best.
I don't know what's going on over there, because a new decision was handed down by the head honchos at Instagram Threads. And it's to temporarily ban certain terms, certain search terms, including stuff like COVID, for instance. It's now no longer allowed. They just ban it all right together.
Can I talk about this? Like, I want to get ahead of this for a sec. Like, let's skip the summary of the story for a bit. I know this is not kosher, but the general thing is they're banning search terms. Okay, it's COVID, it's Israel, Hamas, it's all this stuff. When I hear, okay, specifically, if I go on like the Canada subreddit, to tie this into a Canadian sort of angle here, when I go on the Canada subreddit and see that the entire left-wing establishment and their followers on, communist Reddit are pissed because, at least this is my understanding, Pierre Poilievre delivered some kind of anti-vaccine mandate diatribe and tried to pass legislation banning future vaccine mandates for COVID-19. The entire, liberal leaning commentariat on Reddit is all saying the same thing. Why are these guys still so obsessed with COVID? Why are these guys still bringing this up? Why they're one track mind? No one cares about this anymore. Well, guess what? This is exactly why they're talking about COVID, because anytime you try and search for something that's not sanctioned narrative or sanctioned, fact sets, what do you get? You get told you can't do it. You get told you can't search for it. You get told you can't comment it. You get told that you can't say it at work. You get told that you can't say it around friends. We're having company over tonight. Make sure you don't bring up COVID. This is why one political leaning is hooked on this stuff, because it's still going on, and it's very convenient for the political left, not the actual liberal left. That term is no longer functional in the way this should be. But the political left has an obsession with censoring all things on which they have been found to have been mistaken in the past. This is a common occurrence. And so the reason why the political right is obsessed with this is because of that censorship attempt. You've seen that all over the place, but this is a great example. Meta does this in Instagram. I suspect they also do it on Facebook. I suspect they do it, we know they do it on Threads now. WhatsApp was doing it for a long time as well during COVID. The reason that these guys bring it up is not because they're obsessed with it today. It's because they're obsessed with making sure it doesn't happen again, and that the mistakes are exposed, uncovered, and paid for by the people who committed them, in some cases against billions of people on the planet over the course of that, pandemic scare. That's why. And stories like this are a reminder that leaving it alone is asking for it to happen again.
Now, it's funny, this story, we're talking about it now, and we just wrapped up the Westminster Declaration. These two stories tie together in terms of freedom of expression and the ability to speak without any reprisal. So, can't talk about COVID, can't talk about a few other things. One thing they said in this particular story, that this is a temporary measure. How temporary is it? It's temporary until it's permanent. And that's the reality. But I just want to thank Instagram/Threads for protecting me, because without this shield they put in front of me, I would be bombarded with information. And
how would you ever make it, Len?
Yeah,
how would you ever make it?
I just feel so much better, and I want to thank them for doing so. And that's it. That's all I got to say about this one. Unless you want to add some more.
No, I'm done. I'm done with it.
To the next one. So cookies. we don't talk much about cookies these days.
We do not,
because who knows? Except maybe the Cookie Monster. You'll come across this one day, Joey, when you get a little one. Cookie hijacking. Okta support systems, they were compromised by one of these cookie hijacks, and unfortunately, this security breach could have compromised customer data and customer files. This happened just a few days ago, October 21st. And Okta, which is a cloud identity management company, disclosed to the world that its support system has been compromised by hackers, and hackers were able to steal a session cookie from a support system and used it to access an administrator account. And this may have given them access to the old treasure trove of information we're all aware of, the customer data. And Okta says that there's no evidence that customer data was affected, but they also did not disclose what customer data was accessed. So there's a little bit of secrecy with all this. And they also claim that there's no evidence that customer passwords were affected as well. So that information may potentially not have been leaked out, but I would not be too keen on keeping my password the way it is. I change it right away. Okta, they have since taken steps to ensure that this vulnerability will never cause any issues before, and they can prevent any further attacks. But really, we haven't talked much about cookies in the past. I know that I tend to use more secure browsers, and every time I go to a website, a lot of websites I do, especially news websites, right away they're asking me for cookies. And the one thing I automatically go to is I go to select what type of cookies I want to enable, decline them all, and then go from there. I don't know why I do that, but it just seems like that's the par for the course for me. People out there should be worried if you're using just a normie browser, because you don't know what cookies are going to be laid over there and if this information can be used against you in the future. So just try to secure your browsing, the way you actually browse the internet moving forward. Look for one of these more secure browsers out there and try to limit your cookies. That's just my 2 cents to all this, because again, you can never be too safe. It may be a little bit more restrictive to move around the internet, but all you need is one incident of you losing your information, and you'll say, oh, I wish I did this. But at that point, the horse has left the barn. Closing it doesn't make any difference. So
that's right. You know, I don't have much to add to that. Slow down when you're browsing the internet. Cookie management's an easy thing to do. The menu you're mentioning comes up, and I'm sure a lot of people who listen to and watch this program know, you know, on mobile especially, it can be a quick menu that says accept all or manage. There's never a decline all option. You have to go to a second menu, sometimes a second page, and make that change. You should just make it. I mean, do you really have to get to the recipe for, you know, the best risotto in the next 2 seconds, or can you wait and just do the cookie management first? I would suggest that probably you can, and you should. And, you know, this story is one of many stories we've talked about, Len, of, you know, where errant browsing has cost people money, has cost people time, has cost people identity, and cost a lot of people, you know, value in their equities portfolio as well. So I don't really think it's asking too much. You should just be doing this stuff by default.
Let's go over to China. We'll talk about Weibo and their service over there. There's there's going some changes, because this new social media platform is going through, it's gaining a lot of popularities, and there's going to be some changes moving forward. Now, you talked about threads that they want to confirm your identity a few minutes ago. Well, Weibo, they want users to submit their real names in order to create an account. And this has made the platform to be, you know, more authentic. That's what they're trying to achieve here. And they're also saying it's going to reduce anonymous accounts to try to spread what they say could be misinformation. This name just keeps coming up over and over again. But the problem with real names, when you do this, you're removing a lot of the anonymity with the platform itself. And while they may come, you know, in some ways very, very good, but in other ways it comes with a great cost. So if you want to use a platform but not provide your information, unfortunately, it's not going to be possible. And they're saying that many of the top influencers in China, they've been reluctant to provide their real names because they fear that they would be more vulnerable for online harassment. And I can understand that.
You think they could?
Yeah.
China? Yeah.
So they say, the Weibo people say that they've created a safe space for influencers to be themselves and to connect with their fans on a more personal level. And also of note, the Chinese government is also supportive of the Weibo service, as they feel that cracking down on anonymous accounts is a good way to stop the spread of misinformation.
You're checking all the boxes here, Len.
Yeah, the Chinese government, you know, they've been increasingly cracking down on social media in recent years, and Weibo service is a way for them to control the flow of information online. So when the government of China is on board something, we really need to take a step back and assess the landscape. And the Weibo service is a sign that the Chinese government's increasing control over the internet is something they really want to do. And this is another thing that they're trying to achieve here. And the Chinese government, they're trying to crack down on social media for some time. And it's another example that they're just taking too much power or too much control over there. And with social credit and everything that's going along over there, man, oh man. You know, one thing I have to say is I'm very thankful that Elon Musk has purchased Twitter, because with him owning it, this type of control, this type of message may probably not. I mean, I'll say 99.9% chance will not bleed into Twitter, which is really, really good.
Even though Twitter's become like a hyper commercialized, you know, advertising platform now, I think you're right. You know, the funniest thing about this story to me is that this is basically just a reskinned version of the Thread story, right? Except it's painting the censor as a kind of dangerous, authoritarian leaning, you know, potentially attempting to silence people and verify identities and make people use their real names. And it could be like Instagram is doing all the same stuff. It's literally it's identical in nature. All the elements are the same. You can go down the list here and everything is the same. Misinformation, engaging with your fans in a more personal way, additional permissions probably in the app if you verify, much the same way Instagram and Threads have. Like, what are we talking about here? Who thinks that these things are different in anything except name?
Well, they're the exact same. I mean, just
no
changing the villain there's two villains here. We're just changing the name of them, and one we kind of know is the devil we know versus the devil we don't know, and that's the reality. And I see, is that Moose behind you?
Yeah,
That's
he learned how to do the stairs last week, so now he's got the full house to himself.
It's like when a child starts to learn how to walk, crawl, and walk it. The parent has to adapt because the world of the child expands, and so does trying to protect that child from doing any damage in the household. Yeah, so let's move on. We'll talk about the driverless cars in San Francisco and the Cruise. That's a car from GM, from what I recall. They have driverless cars. These have been suspended in San Francisco due to a recent accident, and the DMV, they're concerned about the Cruise's vehicle, the autonomy of it, and the fact it's not very safe. And some important points are that the Cruise is one of the two companies that has a permit that allows them to operate driverless taxis in San Francisco. Sorry, the Cruise, I believe, is the driverless product being offered by GM. The company has faced criticism, talking about Cruise, for safety concerns and blocking roads. So the DMV, as a result, they decided to take away the permit, their driving ability by themselves, because a pedestrian was dragged under a Cruise car after an accident. And Cruise has been testing driverless cars in San Francisco for quite some time, since 2016, in fact. And so they've been operating commercial driverless taxis for a little while. However, this recent accident is causing some hello to Moose. He doesn't like this story. So it's just causing some issues with people are thinking that it's unsafe and it's going to cause serious injuries to people around them and everything. So really, I'm looking at this. This is a story that, like, people are pissed off that this is just one accident and killed somebody and is causing issues with blocking traffic and all this. But in reality, I drive the streets of Toronto. I drive the streets of Oakville, Mississauga. You should see the garbage I see on a daily basis. And
for sure.
I can't say that this is any better or any worse. It's on par with what I'm expecting right now when I'm driving. And the other driverless car is Waymo. And Waymo, I think they got a better record compared to the Cruise, but still people are not too happy with it, and it's causing some issues. And they're going to probably revoke their license as well. The next accident they have, if it involves a fatality, I hope not, but even if it just inconveniences a few people because it blocks road, they might just revoke Waymo's ability to do driverless taxis. And as they do this, it's going to stymie the growth, the knowledge, and because this is artificial intelligence.
Yeah, the innovation, the innovation will stop proliferating because of the roadblocks. Yeah, no pun intended.
Yeah, you need real world miles. It can't be done in a simulation. And the more it gets, just like a human being, the more experience you get, the more practice you get, the better you get at doing it. So the same thing would apply to this. And I'm not saying every car should be autonomous and wireless and all that jazz, but we got to take a step back and realize, are humans any better? And you know what? Through my eyes with these glasses, no, they're fucking shit.
Do you know that? Okay, so All In covered this a couple of weeks ago when it happened, and they were talking about much the same as you are. What is the cost of humans driving, and what is the cost of AI driving in terms of like mistakes, likelihood of mistakes, and severity of the mistakes? And Len, it's 2023 now. Everyone knows the dangers of stuff like, driving while under the influence of drugs or alcohol, distracted driving. We passed laws against these things. I think those are some of the only laws that have been passed that I really, have no gripe with at all. In fact, I think they should be enforced more judiciously than they are, more harshly than they are. In the States, I think this is just a US stat, but it could be a global stat. Still today, the two leading causes of death in vehicles. Do you know what they are? Do you know what the leading causes of fatal accidents are?
Well, drinking and driving would be one.
That's number one.
Cell phone?
Do you know what number two is?
Distraction from a cell phone?
Distracted driving. And so if AI eliminates both of those, right? And, you eliminate, let's use round numbers, right? If there's 100 accidents between those two things every year, and AI, even if it's still 50% of the fatalities, really you're wiping out 50% of the fatalities. I mean, it's kind of like insensitive, and I think it's hard for people to think of themselves and their loved ones in this way. as figures and facts in a, you know, in a judgment call about whether or not you should have AI driving after a death caused, you know, presumably caused by an AI vehicle. But how else can you think about this? To your point, you will stifle innovation in a way that's going to never allow those numbers to improve, while presumably the other numbers continue to get worse. I mean, we not to drag, like, you know, politics into this, but at least a little bit we have to, I think. You know, police forces are having trouble expanding. You know, you see in Southern Ontario, there's a lot of discussions in major cities. Hamilton, for example, is a good one. You know, I know a few people in the police force, and, you know, I've talked to the chief a few times through some of the work I do in the city. And, you know, it's frustrating for me to watch him give a presentation to Hamilton City Council about expanding his ranks to meet what they call the cop to pop ratio. You know, as the population expands, you need more police officers. And the Hamilton City Council, you know, responds almost like an SNL skit. Well, how many, you know, diversity hires have you guys made in the last year? As if that matters when you're trying to protect people and ensure the safety of the citizens. If police can't expand their ranks, and you don't want AI driving, and more people are on the road, and the test becomes a little, you know, harder to grade because, you know, there's more gridlock. You're never making difficult decisions in a split second, et cetera, et cetera. What do these people who are, you know, against artificial intelligence, I'm calling it artificial intelligence, well, you know, we can call it like automatic driving or whatever. What are they suggesting is the fix? You can't just ossify because you don't like new technology after a story like this. It doesn't make sense. You know, like we've never done this anywhere. We didn't do it with flight. You know, we didn't do it with the first car. We didn't do it with power, electricity. We didn't do it with, I mean, unfortunately, we are actually still doing it a little bit with nuclear power, but, you know, you get the point. We didn't do this anywhere. And the benefits, I mean, according to anyone and according to any metric, have grossly outweighed the negatives. And so I wonder what these people would suggest. You know, nothing surprises me about California, unfortunately, but to me, like the answer is obvious here. You clearly are going one direction with AI vehicles and, you know, self-driving vehicles, and that technology is only going to improve the way all technology only improves over time. And I expect that people kind of give their head a shake after this. I know it's emotional at the moment, and of course, like, your heart breaks for the people involved, but this is, again, like, insensitive and cold calculating, but this is the cost of innovation, I think, at some point, at some level, right? And there's not much else to say about it.
I'm wondering too, if you have more automated drivers, or cars that drive themselves, how much more productive can theoretically society be?
Yeah, of
Because
course.
when I am in the driver's seat, I'm often thinking about work and what I could do and stuff like that. And I can't act on that until I stop the car, and then I can start doing it.
You don't
if I
do
was able to
spreadsheets
do
in the car on the 403?
No, because it's it's too severe. Joey, you know what? I'm gonna pump my own bags here. Driving for over 30 years, no accidents, no speeding tickets,
nice.
No tickets here, no belts, no nothing. I've been clean, and there's a reason because I respect the rules. And so I wish often I've been driving, and it happens more often these days the busier I get. I wish I could actually do something instead of drive. And if the car drove itself and enabled me to actually use my phone, tablet, laptop, whatever, I would be slightly more productive. I wonder if the same could apply to society as a whole.
Yeah, maybe, right? Take away some of these concerns about my commute and this and that. You know, presumably if there was automatic driving or self-driving cars, I mean, this is way off the beaten path for this, but, you know, you're talking about things like gridlock kind of, you know, alleviating itself because the cars make better decisions about merging and speeds and stuff like that, right? They anticipate in a way that humans often don't or can't what's coming next based on, you know, patterns they're getting and data they're getting from other self-driving cars. Anyway, all this to say that, like, you know, innovation comes at a cost always. Sometimes the cost is tragic and unfortunate and all these things. And there's no way around that, right? You can't dismiss the pain these people feel, but to suggest that we have to stop is, you know, it's an emotional response. I hate saying that because it's really not fair to these people. You know, who knows what I would be like or you'd be like in that situation, but it is
the World Health Organization to come out and say that the driverless cars, they spread COVID, and that's going to be just stopping this altogether.
Stop it in its tracks. Get Tedros out there. Let's get a global treaty on driverless cars. We got to sign it. Get it done. We're done. We're finished. That was it. We got anything else you want to say? Any parting words for people? No?
That is all.
Okay. God bless everyone. We'll see you next week.